Hi, I'm Michelle Shepard, registered dietitian, and today we are talking about why you might be hungry an hour or two after lunch or any meal for that matter. Now, I own West Coast Nutrition, where we help people find sustainable, healthy eating, fat loss, and gut health. And this is a big challenge I see in my clients and in my group. So you bring this healthy lunch or you have a great breakfast, and an hour later, you're starving again and scrounging in the cupboard or craving those treats that you know are in the pantry or on that work friend's desk. So let's dig into four different things. One of them is going to be something missing from breakfast. The other is something that might be missing from your lunch. The third is something that might be too much in your lunch. And the last one is a metabolic challenge or something with your metabolism that might actually need a different approach and a deeper dive to make it easier to stay satisfied. Now, this is really important if you have a fat loss goal or a gut health goal, because we all have 10,000 plus calories of stored energy in our fat cells. That's what fat cells are. They're little energy repositories to help us go periods between meals. We've evolved to have them. And so we shouldn't need to eat every hour. What's happening here is you're getting dysregulated hunger hormone signals. So you're listening to your body, but your body and brain are sending you the wrong thing at the wrong time. So we're going to dig into what those might be so you can fix them. And being able to have that space between meals will help you steady blood sugar and insulin and make fat loss easier, as well as activate parts of your gut called the Migrating Motor Complex, which helps to clean things out and reset motility, especially important if you're also bloaty or constipated or struggling with gut issues. Let's dig right in. Now, first thing we're going to look at is the one you guys always get tired of me harping about, and that is not enough protein at your first meal. Now, when I say breakfast, I don't mean you have to get up at 6 a.m. and crank a smoothie back. What I do mean is the first meal you're eating, usually in those first like 3 to 4 hours of the day, whenever that is. Mine isn't right at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. when I get up. I usually have a workout, I walk the dog, and then I come home and kind of get after it. You do what works for you. What is important here is this meal, no matter what time it is, sets our hunger hormones for the day. So if you're having less than 20 grams of protein at that meal, which is real easy to do, especially if you do a lot of like cozy, comforting things like oats or, potentially a like baked oatmeal or a cereal or like toast and peanut butter. Those are not unhealthy foods, but they're naturally low protein. So we actually want to get up over 20 grams of protein a day in order to lower hunger hormones for the rest of the day. So really important for those afternoon hunger and cravings, that 3 p.m. energy slump, and those of you who might be struggling with munchies after dinner or cravings that feel really persistent. So this might look like getting up over 20 grams as a minimum. Most of my clients feel better at about 25 to 45 grams at each meal, but you start where you start. Get up over that 20 as a first goal. If you're getting 5 grams now, work up to 10. More is better. Something is better than nothing. Now, some options might be if you're doing like a boiled egg with your avo toast, do a couple scrambled eggs and like a quarter cup or half cup of egg whites, scrambled in there to really boost the protein. It might be subbing your usual toast for a higher protein version, like the flat out wraps, which have about 10 grams of protein, Silver Hills bread, which has about 6 grams of protein per 100 calorie and 18 grams of carb slice. It might also be a carbonate bread. So it's a lower carb bread. They've got 6 grams of protein and a 80 calorie, 8-gram slice. You probably get 2 of those and an extra 12 grams without having to change a lot because they're a smaller piece. You might blend your cream cheese. You throw in your bagel with some cottage cheese and some everything bagel spice just to up the protein because cream cheese is a fat. Maybe you top your avo toast with scrambled tofu or crunchy roasted chickpeas if you're plant-based, or swap the milk you use in your coffee, your overnight oats, or your cereal with a higher protein version. So if you can do dairy, something like Fairlife is really great. There's a solid 15 to 20 grams of protein in that milk alone. So just playing with some options that are doable, that work with what you enjoy, and you can manage in your prep schedule to bump that up over that 20 grams and higher if you think you need it. Now, the second thing we said was something that's missing from lunch. So if you have been prepping this awesome, low calorie, really veggie rich like salad or bowl, you might be finding that you're starving after lunch. What's happening is usually in my clients, the fat is really low. So low calorie recipes are more likely to be really low on like the dressing or the fat containing ingredients. And while fat does contain more calories per portion, it's also very satiating. It helps to slow emptying of the food from the stomach, balance blood sugar so you get a steady rise and no crash, and that keeps you fuller longer. It's also really important for hormonal health for both men and women. Now, this might look like a little bit more dressing, or if you're using a low-fat one, use one with some olive oil or avocado oil in it. Maybe you throw a quarter, of an avocado diced up onto the bowl, or maybe a tablespoon or two of pumpkin seeds, or, nuts like almonds or cashews crunched up. I really love those tamari almonds you can get from Costco that are a little bit salty, kind of chopped up and thrown on a salad. So much flavor. So you only need a tablespoon or two of a nut or seed here, or a teaspoon or two of an oil or fat, but it's going to go a long ways towards keeping you more steady, more full, and out of that snacky, grazy 3 p.m. slump kind of habit. Now, the third one is the one where you might be doing too much, which isn't as much fun to fix, but it is important, especially if, like me, you're getting up to your mid to late 30s, you're getting into your 40s or 50s, because our bodies are changing and our tolerance to what we eat and how we respond to it changes too. Now, if more than a third of your plate is carbs, whether they're healthy carbs like sweet potatoes or beans or quinoa or wild rice or chickpea noodles, you might be finding that what you're still getting is a big spike in blood sugar because it's more carb than you need for your activity and your metabolism, which causes a big rush of insulin and a big crash an hour or two after you eat. Now, that crash is going to ramp up hunger hormones and cravings. It's going to lower your impulse control. So God forbid someone puts some treats in front of you at that time. That's a really dangerous place to be. And it also doesn't feel very good. You tend to be draggy and moody and tired and unfocused. So we're going to fix this by shifting the balance, not by just starving you and taking all your carbs off the plate. So if you are active, typically I'd want a third of your plate or less to be the healthy carbs. Or maybe if you are less active or you're only active a couple times a week, about a quarter of your plate or that dish to be healthy carbs. Now, remember, carbs are our flour-based foods like, pastas and noodles and breads and muffins and baked goods and crackers. There are fruits. There are starchy veggies like sweet potatoes and acorn squash and butternut squash. And they are going to be our grains. So your brown and white rice, your wild rice, your quinoa, all that good stuff. So the one thing you want to watch out for is sneaky doubling up. So like a big healthy salad you tried, which was beans and corns and quinoa, and like a little bit of greens and tomatoes in there. Beans, corn, and quinoa, if they're half of that salad, half of your meal is carbs, even though they're healthy. So bump up the tomatoes and the cucumber and the greens that are in there. Just shift the balance when you prep it and add more of that veggies, and you'll get a bigger batch. You may also want to look at things like your, if you're doing like yogurt and fruit for lunch and then you're finishing up with like a banana or an apple on top, you're sort of doubling up on the servings of carbs. Their fruit is not bad. We just want to find the portion that works for your body. So maybe you buy smaller apples and do a little less berries on your yogurt. Just shift a little bit to bring the proportion down. And then the last one would be a lot of times those bowls. So the really healthy bowl recipes, especially the plant-based ones, tend to be really high carbs, so 50% or more. So you might have like a healthy green goddess bowl, like brown rice on the bottom and sweet potato as a topping, but that might bring you up to a half plate of those healthy carbs. So just bringing the portion of rice down a little bit to make room for the sweet potato and keep it under a third or more, and adding more of the other things. Maybe those proteins and fats can go up a little bit, or the veggies to help fill you up and still have a volume that feels really good. So aiming to keep that to a third of the plate or less if you are, reasonably moderately active, or a quarter or less if activity is really low right now for whatever reason. We all go through those, no judgment. Just do what works for your body. And the last one, number 4, we said was something that might be up with your metabolism or your metabolic health. Now, I actually see this in a lot of my clients. When my clients come to me, most of them have a sense of what they should be doing, and often it's really hard because life is hard or it's not working the way that it used to. And what can happen as we get into our mid-30s and up, or if we are sleep deprived, really stressed chronically, even if it's out of our control and we're doing a good job of functioning, is we can become insulin resistant. And what this means is the carbohydrates in our body get into our bloodstream, and our healthy cells want this carb because it is a good fuel, but it can't get in. So insulin is wiggling the lock to try and let the carbs into our cells, and the lock's not opening. What happens is we produce more and more insulin to try and put that away, because a high blood sugar is dangerous and we control that until we hit diabetes. But what happens is it has to go somewhere. And our fat cells, those storage lockers we talked about, they remain insulin sensitive at the end of the hallway going, let me take care of that for you. So when insulin rises, we are going to see more storage of energy as fat, and it's harder to get it out of the storage locker because you've got that signal, you're in storage mode. The other thing that happens is hunger tends to go up because your healthy cells are still waiting. They didn't get that fuel through the door, and so you get cued to eat a lot, even though you've got those 10,000 plus calories of fuel and energy right there, right in your body. What we want to do here is be gentle. So if you're here, it's because you might have a fat loss goal or a healthy fitness, leanness goal, but you're done dieting. You want to do it in a way that's sustainable and healthy. And so with insulin resistance, we often have to be a little more assertive for 6, 8, 12 weeks, but we don't want to be super diety and strict because then it's just going to come back on if we fix that and go back to eating the way we did because we feel like we missed everything. So what I want you to think about is one, this is specialized. Why you're struggling with insulin sensitivity is really important here. Is it age? Is it hormonal status? So things like menopause? Is it sleep and stress? Is it, actually the food balance or your activity? So we're going to work on a variety of things depending on your specific situation. And some of those things might include fixing the kind of activity you're doing to build more insulin sensitizing muscle. I especially work on this with my female clients, and we have a whole module on it, thanks to Coach Sasha in our Lose Weight with Confidence group program. It might be looking at lowering added sugars or playing with that balance of carbs and fats and proteins on your plate a little bit differently to see what works for you, what brings hunger down over time, what makes fat loss easier. We're also going to add more insulin sensitizing nutrients. We can't get it fixed without having enough of things like magnesium and choline and vitamin D and folate. We need those guys to get the sugar back into those cells and to build more of those little factories so that we can become insulin sensitive. And sleep and stress management are huge. Now, stress happens to us a lot of the time. It's not that you're not coping well. And most of my clients are leading teams and ferrying their kids around. They're getting everything done. But if we're not proactively addressing the sleep piece, which even 1 or 2 nights can lower insulin sensitivity, and how we offset that stress in your body through the strategies we use, both with food and lifestyle, it's going to be impossible to fix that problem. And you're just going to try and eat less and less until you're miserable and gaining all that weight back. So this is why you have to look at the big picture when it comes to fat loss, especially if it's been feeling hard. And it's actually why I asked this question on my application form. So those of you who've worked with me know there's a question that says, how ready are you to look at lifestyle factors outside of food that might be affecting your nutrition, your health, and your goals? Because if we don't look at that big picture, you're not going to get the results you want, or you're not going to be able to keep them, right? You're going to really hate your life eating the way you're eating, and eventually going to want to eat like a real human again. So you want to work with someone, whether that's me or someone else, to dig into what's underneath here and take a big picture approach of what do we need to add more of, what might we need to do less of for now, and how do we really get to the bottom of what is happening for you with that insulin resistance. Now, we cover all of this stuff both in my one-on-one programs, but also in my group program. So if you've been kind of on the fence, Lose Weight with Confidence is designed for balanced blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, and that long-term fat loss. So really getting enough of the things that make it easier and enjoyable to keep doing. So if that's something that you want help with, if you are looking to lose fat and also feel good in your body without dieting and restricting and going off and on, I'm here for you. You can always hit the apply button. If you're a current client, just email me. We'll get you back on the calendar. But I would love to help you if you're ready. If not, I'd love to know what you're struggling with food-wise. Let me know by hitting reply and I'll add it to our email newsletter list. I'm so thankful to have each and every one of you here. I hope you have a fantastic week. Happy and healthy day.